What's up, everybody? We are here with Penelope Nederlander. She just finished presenting a little bit ago. Fantastic job, by the way.
Thank you very much.
One thing that I really like about your work, and I was unaware, now I know you've done a ton of these title sequences. Like a crazy amount of title sequences.
I've done a few, yeah.
I wasn't aware. Like I knew I met you at Brograph, and you showed me the tick title sequence that you did, yep. You know, and then the one that you just presented on was which one? What was the name of the show?
Tales from the Tour Bus, Mike Judge's show.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and so when you were showing off your reel, which is killer, by the way. I didn't realize that you're like, oh yeah, I've done this for Kung Fu Panda and so on and so on. I was like, wow, you got a awesome portfolio of work.
Thank you. Yeah, no. Well, working for Shine, that's one of their primary things. And they've Michael and Bob go back to the RGA days. They worked there, and then they've I think they worked at Imaginary Forces for a while, and then they broke off and did their own company. And so they've really just been in that business for so long that they have these great connections, and they really just do consistent, good work for titles. It's awesome.
So give me just a basic rundown of your whole presentation for those who couldn't catch it on C40 Live and then will not, because there's a small gap there between when it's live and then when it gets released. So just a little rundown of it. You don't have to do the whole thing.
Okay. Well, I didn't get super in the weeds on the details of it. I really wanted to break down my process more than worry on the details, So I did a section on modeling, a section on animation, and a section on using Cineware and After Effects to sort of edit it without rendering. Yeah. So when I got that project and I looked at the boards, I saw the bus and I was like, well, I'm going to have to model a bus. I looked for one online and I'm like, no, there's no 1970s tour buses. And then they gave me a reference and I'm like, oh, it's a specific bus. Yeah. And that they drew, not a physical one. So I was like, well, that's going to be important. That's an important detail that I have to nail. So I'm going to start with that. And so we went over the basic modeling starting points, how I got going, and the tools that I used of primitives, making them editable, using subdivision surfaces, and symmetry and Boolean. I use that for 90% of that whole modeling.
Yeah. I thought the subdivision surface part was cool. You don't see a lot of people doing the subdiv modeling, which most people are just simple box modeling and then bevel where they need to, the hard surface modeling. But I don't know. Since learning about the subdiv stuff, I don't know. It's way cool. Sorry.
Well, no, but the thing is, if you have a little more creative freedom in terms of what it looks like, I guess it makes sense to bake things down and work on the beveling and stuff. But I was worried I would have to change a lot of it, and I didn't want to just do a lot of point selection and dragging and stuff like that. I wanted to keep it as live as possible for as long as possible. The more that I could keep something a primitive, the better. The more I could keep it subdivision surface and not put in bevels and chamfers and stuff, the better. Yeah. Cool.
So talk to me about Rooster Teeth. You work for Rooster Teeth, right?
I do.
What's your official title?
I am a compositor in the animation department. Well, I have an unofficial title right now. So I've been working on Ruby. That's when I went in there. I started freelancing for live action for 6 weeks on their show, $1 Million Butt, which was a lot of fun. Super fast turnaround, but just fun graphics. And then I saw a posting for compositor, and I'm like, well, I've composited. I'm not a compositor, but I'll composite. And we use After Effects. Our pipeline gives us all the assets we need and all the nulls and everything. And we use mostly just After Effects plugins to get the desired effects, but we want it to be cartoony, like an anime, live in that world, but be cool. And Rooster Teeth is a great company for being an artist because mostly I've worked for studios who work for clients or directly for clients. And my first week, someone said, don't stress on this too much. Cool is king here. Make it look cool, and they'll be down.
That's awesome. And because most people are really worried about just getting it out. Get it done. You don't have to worry about that. But whatever, that's cool.
But if you do something that doesn't quite fit, they'll give you notes. But if it just looks cool, the leadership is not super into making sure it's they think about everything ahead of time. They really give you artistic license. But we're working on a new show called Genlock, and
Yeah, they're really excited about Genlock.
I know, right? Me too. And that's like a giant mech robot show, and it's the same thing. We're doing it with a 3D pipeline and a tune shading, and then we're compositing it the same, but it's like futuristic. It's like 2050 or something like that. And my sort of unofficial thing right now is lead FUI designer. Yeah, so I get to like design the look of like these 5 totally different styles of UIs that are going to exist in the show.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's like all from scratch. We're doing like like we're early on it was proposed like, I mean, we can just buy UIs, right? And
No, you got to make them all.
no, we're here. We're artists, so it's been a lot of fun. Yeah.
Okay, so moving to another subject, you were one of the female representatives on the Women in Brograph panel yesterday, right?
That's true.
Yeah, that is true. So tell me a little bit about the panel and like maybe your thoughts on that whole process, or the whole maybe the whole panel. I guess I don't know. I wasn't there. I wanted to be, but I was running the booth.
How dare you? What a man.
I know, right?
You're the problem. No, it was a really positive experience. This being my first NAB with Maxon, and like I feel like I've been NAB before, I can't remember, but like I noticed my first day yesterday coming over that I was on one of the like monorail cars, and I was like, oh, I'm curious. I only see me and Robin and one other woman on here, and I counted, and I'm like 35 people, 3 women on this whole monorail, and I'm like, that is what this conference is going to be like probably, and it is. It's like very male dominated, and like it's not just the motion industry, it's like just like broadcast in general. But even in motion, like I haven't worked with many women over the past, in Los Angeles or Austin or wherever I've worked. So doing this panel just from like my personal experience has been really cool because I'm hanging out with some really cool women and I'm not getting that sense. And like that really to me demonstrates how important it is to like have multiple women, like you just have one token woman, like you have to act different when you're like the only woman with like a bunch of guys. And so that was cool. But the panel, we had a whole bunch of questions. Tuesday was moderating and she was awesome. Paul Babb was really cool. He introduced it, and like he had such a great story to how it went down. How he was like, we've gotten some negativity, some complaints about not having enough women represented, presenting, and he's like, at first I was like mad about it, and then he's like, that's not constructive. Why don't I listen to this and do something about it? And I was like, oh my God, that's so great. And he's like, I didn't want to moderate it. Someone wanted me to moderate it, but I got Tuesday to do it because you know what? It shouldn't be me. It should be, and he had that thing about amplifying the voice of other people as opposed to being the voice. And so like, just kudos to him for that. It was a really refreshing environment to be in.
Is there any advice that you would give, men within this industry may not realize that they're being inclusive or exclusive? I don't know which one it is, exclusive, yeah, Is there anything we may not realize we are? Is there anything that both men and women can do in order to like increase this awareness and also the to bring more women to promote more women into this industry?
Absolutely. So if I can micro focus, one of the things that I heard the most from the women on the panel, I'd say, was about confidence, and that and this is a what's that word? Systemic thing. It's how men and women are raised. Boys and girls are raised. Women are not raised to be as outwardly confident, and to be a little demure, and men are. And what you see is a lot of what our industry is, and a lot of industries, I'd imagine. Confidence really comes through when you're trying to get a job, like you should definitely put that foot forward, or like if you have the job and you're presenting ideas. I think that women might be inclined to be less trusted by men who are used to men presenting more confidence. I read an article recently that was like a survey, and that in some given environment, and I think it was like maybe like a doctorate program or something like that, I think it was a school, men were more likely to believe, to think that men were more capable and were performing better. And they, like, if you ask, like, who's performing better, men or women, and like the men would be like men, you know. It was more refined than this, and I don't remember. But then they polled the results, and the women were like 53% doing better, you know. So it wasn't even 50-50 performance. It was the women were actually performing a little bit better than the men, but even they thought that they weren't as good, and that's like a weird thing.
I talked about this with Sarah yesterday during her interviews, and she said, you know, sometimes as a woman within this industry, you know, you're so surrounded by men that you can kind of get a little self-conscious about your work and stuff like that, and us as men kind of like amplify that. For that, I apologize for all men everywhere. But like, yeah, no, that's very interesting, you know, especially with the confidence part about, like, you know, trying to stay confident, I guess.
And I'm not trying to let you off the hook here since you decided to represent all men, but I have noticed that even though I would say if you asked most women, they would see this as a problem, they would recognize this, I think women are part of the system. And like one time that irked me was being like having a problem with a thing, and I was trying to work it out, and the producer immediately thought, and like, can I get a guy over here? Can I get one of the guys over here? And she was a woman. You know what I mean? Like, I've had a situation recently where 2 new employees at a company I worked at, the woman was a lot quieter, and the man wasn't. And but like and he had even more experience. But in the end, when it all shook out, she worked way harder, way longer, and had better results than him. But I found myself not instinctively, but like kind of automatically, because she wasn't confident outwardly, thinking she needed more help. And like been like, oh, well, he's fine. You know, he's done this before and he seems confident that he can do it. And she was like, I don't know, I've never done this before. Why did I listen to that? I should have just looked at I'm not a lead, so I don't see it, but that's my bad.
Any advice you can give to women within this industry to help like boost that confidence?
Women that are already in the industry, it's a toughie. I think that you have to treat people at different levels in the industry, at different stages, differently. Because I think that being systemic, it's really good to encourage girls that are coming up in school, and, you know, like women that are in college, encourage them to be more outwardly willing to take risks and be confident. And in a way that is a little different for women that are currently doing it, you know? And I mean, there's some problems that aren't even really necessarily within the hands of women. I mean, we can all help each other, but everyone's got to pitch in. But like most companies are owned by men and creative directed by men. And so like, I mean, do what you can, you know, and like, you know, have the confidence to maybe start your own company and believe in yourself. But like, we really need to make a push like we're doing in STEM fields to get girls more comfortable working in the field and not just like, it's not just the field, right? Like right now at Rooster Teeth, I'm noticing a lot of women that are that are working with me are very technically adept, and they love video games. And I'm like, I swear to God, that's huge. 3D mapping skills disassociated from your own eyeballs and head is like, that's part of your 10,000 hours of experience.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, if you're playing like, you know, Overwatch or whatever, or, you know, and you started out playing, you know, like Zelda or something like that, you're developing skills, and boys do it more than girls. And so not discouraging girls from playing video games, not making it seem like it's not cool for a girl to do that. That Gamergate stuff is important for this reason. It's not just about games. It's about the technical fields and the artistic fields.
That's interesting. That's a take I haven't heard before. That's really good.
my hot take.
Yeah, that was good. All right. Thank you so much. NAB 2018 on the showroom floor. Brograph, I designed this. Penny Nederlander. Where can they find you online?
Oh, you can find me online. My website is pennyzee.com, so pennyzee.com. I am on Twitter at Baffled by Foxes, on Instagram at Fifi Namanon. Thank you. I smile like I just made a Twitter and I'm 39. I was like, it's too late to think of a name. But yeah, and that's it. You can see the work we're doing at roosterteeth.com. We have a brand new SVOD site for all of our content, and it's a really cool community. And Ruby is awesome, and Genlock. Check Genlock out. Even if you don't like necessarily into like anime, it's really going to be good.
Well, they get to see your work.
And you get to see my work.
Awesome. All right, guys, stick around for more on the NAB showroom floor.